Am I okay with the mic? Should I go any closer? We good? Okay, cool. It's really hard to gauge that up here. So I'm Emily Reese. I'm here to talk about the arts and programming and how we can build things as programmers for artists. I am Eclair Reese everywhere on the internet. And I made these first few slides to really live by my words. I made my art in an iOS app. So how can we use our programmatical knowledge and our technological ways of thinking to help all the cool creative stuff that's happening on seemingly the other side of the cultural fence? I work at Kickstarter as a Ruby on Rails engineer, and I really live out these principles every day. They're very important to me. And I started at Kickstarter 2 years ago, not as an engineer. I didn't know how to code. I just started doing art stuff because I have an undergrad in arts, master's in arts, and working with creators every day and seeing how they use the tools at Kickstarter made me need to understand how these tools worked. And I asked if I could get the code on my computer, and our operations engineer had no problem with that, and I started teaching myself how to program and eventually moved over to the engineering team last year. So that's me, and if we take a step back and think about the arts world in general, which is the world that I came from, originally before starting at a tech company, you imagine something like this, right? It's a white cube sort of space, kind of uncomfortable in it, feel like you're not welcome, and scarcity is everything in the art world, which is kind of terrifying, whereas when we build tools on the web, we think anybody can use this. If you have an internet connection or a computer, if you have access to this stuff, you can learn how to program, you can have your friend help you, and it's all very accessible. Luxury art, to be sure, has its place in culture, but I don't know, it wasn't my scene, and that's not to say it's a bad thing, but I don't know if anybody in this room necessarily agrees with the principles of scarcity and, inaccessibility. So at the same time that this art world exists, I feel as if now we live in a time where we can take back that creative energy a little bit, and this is fueled by artists and makers and hackers. Probably a lot of whom are present in this room, I definitely identify with this, that want to break down the barriers between art and the people that consume art and audiences and the ability to make art. So not only are there similarities in terms of mentality between art production and writing code, I think, but also there are all these psychological darknesses as well that artists feel, that I definitely felt when I was studying art, that I also feel when writing code. You can say, yeah, I carry a sketchpad around with me all the time, and I like to draw in my free time, but I can't draw. Or I know how to write a Rails app, or I can write HTML and CSS, I can get a web page up, but no, I can't code. And you say this super excited thing about this world that you participate in, and this thing that you love, and then you bring yourself down a notch because everybody feels imposter syndrome. Every artist feels that the work that they make isn't necessarily up to par. I always feel that the code I write is not up to par. And in this sense, I just think, I know I keep harping on that these worlds are so similar, but that's because they are. And I want to spend the rest of my talk talking about ideas that if you're not sure how to enter into the world of art or not really sure how to take your artistic knowledge and enter the world of code, people that have done a good job of fusing the two. So the first idea, these are real life things that people have already made. A database of prints to keep things central and to help researchers identify artwork. As you know, prints, there can be any number of prints that an artist makes. The thing about prints is that they're reproducible. So how can you keep track of all these prints that exist at all these different institutions all over the world, what year they were printed and so forth? Super complicated, but it need not be. So the technology between the example that I want to give is John Ressig's ukioa.org website. This is a lot of bullet points, and I took it straight from the site, but in short, the site that he built, he's an enormous, John Ressig, creator of jQuery, huge woodblock print fan, and he made this site that has an enormous database of prints, and it also uses crazy image analysis tools that I don't understand. I saw him give a talk about it once, but I'd love to know more at some point, so if you ever want to talk about that, I'd love to hear it during a break. But yeah, he collects all these samples from institutions all over the world, museums, galleries, places that have prints, puts them all together in one database, and then runs image analysis on stuff that you can upload, you can add to the site, and see where all these other prints exist. And it's this way of negating art world scarcity and saying, like, here's the web doing its thing for this art world that otherwise wouldn't have a way to do so. And also, the site is translated in English and Japanese, so researchers in any part of the world that want to use this can. So very cool. Oh, I have a habit of naming all my screenshot pictures. I preface them with very cool, like backer tool or something like that for something on Kickstarter. Yeah, so here's a screenshot from that. The image, like the original thing that we're looking at, I think this says it's from the Met, and then all the other prints that exist similar to this are down below, and the institutions at which they appear. So that's great and awesome. So next up, an art game. I don't know how many game developers are in this room. I would assume at a programming conference about enthusiasm and making cool stuff in programming, there would be some. So this, huh?
Sorry, nothing.
Oh, it is okay. Yeah, so this game is called Art Game, which is pretty aptly described for this talk, made by a game developer named Pippin Barr, and he makes a lot of cool stuff, all 8-bit and really great. So the idea, I won't read this whole paragraph to you, but most important to me are follow your dreams, be a star of the art world, be a horrible failure, be an artist. Which is generally how it works out for artists, right? Like you're either crazy successful and you rake in millions of dollars, or you're less than successful and you're waiting for your big break. So the technology, here's all the stuff that he used. Art Game was written in ActionScript 3, Adobe's Flash Builder 4.6. And then a font shout out for the person who made it. And also you can play this game in the browser, really neat. Like you don't even have to be on Steam or something like that. And I took some screenshots. You choose your artist. I always choose the French person. As you saw, my title was in French to speak French. So I've never been anyone else, and I've never played the 2-player version, but that's a challenge for you. You head into MoMA and you meet the curator, and this curator's like, I want you to produce some work for MoMA, and you're like, oh my god, this is a great opportunity, right? And then you play Snake to make the painting, so it's really great. Like as soon as you lose Snake, like your head hits your tail accidentally, the painting is over. So I obviously didn't make it very far in this painting because it's not a very complicated snake, but it's done. You can throw a title on there. Untitled feels very artsy to me. So then your painting's propped up against the wall, and you can press enter to call the curator and be like, my work is done here. And then the curator comes and rejects this particular painting. I've never had a painting be accepted. Yeah, but it's really fun, and it's just in the browser, so simple, and I love this because it gives 8-bit form and a super programmatic feel to something that is hard to put into words about art. Like, it articulates this sort of horrible rejection, but also great potential for success. Like, you just gotta make a thing. So next up, a robot that draws a picture from a computer. And this is similar to a 3D printing sort of thing, where you give a robot something you want the robot to make, and it makes that thing for you. The technology, oh my god, okay, I'm a Rails developer, so Node freaks me out, but this is written in Node, and one of our other developers at Kickstarter, Eric Kastner, is the one behind this, and he also worked on it with 2 of our other developers named Teague and Bethany. So the source code is up on GitHub if you want to check it out, and here's some images of the robot doing its thing. And surely there are other iterations on this, and it's a field in and of itself, but these 3 people made this thing in 12 hours, and yeah, on the left you can see like, I don't know, these images are kind of small because I took them from a Vine, so the quality is not that high. But you can see the images on the computer, and then the robot's printing it out in the middle, and then all their hacky supplies are on the right. So that's a sort of hardware or maker version of this intersection of art and technology, and I think everything makery has that at its core. And lastly, back to the woodblock print theme. So, these previous examples were things that were more technologically oriented, and they're portraying art, so let's go in the other direction. How can art portray technology? Japanese woodblock prints are super old art form. They're very honed in terms of precision and technique. You cut a bunch of wood and ink it up and you print stuff. You've surely all seen the stuff like the wave crashing that everybody knows, and illustrations of Mount Fuji. So I'm sorry for the Wikipedia quote. Here's somebody making a print. But, so to modernize the woodblock print, you add video game characters to it, right? So since Japanese culture really has made amazing video games, and Japanese culture has also done great woodblock printing, combine the 2. Ukiyo-e Heroes was a Kickstarter project. It's probably my favorite one that has ever been on the site. Jed Henry and Dave Wool made these things. And, my video game parlance is not quite up to speed, but I know Pikachu when I see it, and a Pokemon scene on the right, I love it so much. So yeah, even if code isn't your thing, you can definitely take elements of code and programming and add them to your art or whatever creative thing that you do. Long story short, the Japanese games we love are just the new chapter in an ancient, enduring culture. This is true of art. This is true of technology. Here's my last illustration and my very intense code snippet for my talk. Science and technology can add this entirely new dimension to art and to creativity, and can really free technology from its more objective constraints, I think. So let's make more stuff like this.